Rene, and I was in technology for the early part of my career down in the Valley, what we call the first and real boom. And then I moved into biotech when it was pretty young, and I had the pleasure of being able to witness that industry really be birthed and change and evolve. And now I am out on my own. And I'll give you a little bit of my story as part of my talk today on confidence. But mostly we're going to spend the next 40 minutes diving into this elusive and yet really important topic called confidence. So the allure of confidence, for those of us who would classify ourselves as confident, right? It's a blessing. For those of us that don't, it can feel like a curse, or at best, a mystery. So just that I can kind of see who I'm in the room with, how many would say, you know what, on most days and in most situations, I would claim that I am confident? Raise your hand. Right on. And then how about those of us that say, once in a while, yes, I can find it and feel it, and I feel in flow, and I can wow myself and others, but most of the time I kind of gotta fake it till I make it, or kind of wake up and hope that it'll show up for me when I need it most. Okay, welcome. I live in both camps. So I'm not on this stage saying that I'm 100% confident. In fact, what I hope to do is kind of unwrap this topic, this word a little bit, so that you can really understand, first and foremost, what confidence is and isn't, and secondarily, how can you grow it from within? Because in my experience, that is the only way that truly confident people can raise their hand more often than not, is if they've really grown it from within. So, does it come from within? Right? That's a question that I've asked myself, even though people have told me that my whole career. They've also told me confidence is key. But I've also gotten mentions of things like fake it till you make it, or don't worry about it, they won't know that you're crumbling inside, just get up there, right, and put a good face on. It's also pretty overwhelming to just tell someone as a leadership and team coach, oh, just don't worry about it, just be confident, right? For someone to just tell you that is sort of like, in a way, insensitive, because they likely have no idea why this topic is even hard for you. You may not even know why this topic is hard for you, because if you look at the history of your life, sometimes it shows up, and sometimes it doesn't. And again, that is very true for me. But what I really firmly believe now, after my own very enriching and challenging and exciting career, and being able to support and be a companion to others on that journey, I have yet to really meet a person who's confident, who hasn't dug deep, who hasn't done the work that life asks of us in order to cultivate that quality, that way of being within themselves for the long haul. And so for the next bit of time together, and our time is precious, I'm gonna give you maybe what I call more non-traditional precursors to building that kind of confidence. Are we up for that?
Yeah.
Yes, okay. All right, so first and foremost, let's talk about why confidence can truly only be developed from the inside out. It's not something that I can watch a great boss, although I hope we have all had one in our life who's really confident, and we certainly can get inspiration from that, but I can't just watch it in someone else and then bring it into my own life. Is that true for you as well? Yeah. Or maybe all of a sudden I'm knocking it out of the park, and then the next day I wake up and I'm like, oh my God, please just wipe my calendar clean. I don't want to go into that meeting. I don't want to have that conversation. I don't want to pitch myself for that next project. Okay, great, I'm seeing the nodding. So that's why my firm belief, it has to come from the inside. It's not going to just show up for you when you wake up in the morning at like a warm cup of coffee, unfortunately. So I've really named 5 non-traditional precursors. And some of you might look at those and be like, oh my God, that's a lot more work than I thought would be required. So here's the good news. I'm gonna link these 5 precursors to confidence, but I promise you, if you choose to live your life really cultivating these qualities, it will show up for you in so many other places, not just as it relates to your confidence. When we are confident and when we are embodying these, what I'm calling 5 precursors to confidence, we set ourselves on to a path to live and lead with greater purpose and authenticity. We show up wholeheartedly. We show up more as ourselves more often than not. We show up authentically. And so you'll see me link this idea of confidence with being on purpose in our life and living that purpose very authentically. Achieving greater inner and outer alignment. So we show up in the way that we intend. Again, I mentioned someone can say, just go up there, hit it out of the park or whatever. You got this. And you're all, okay, right. And I'm up here and I'm looking around. I'm like, I don't think I got it, right? Like there's all these inner critic. Wait, I should check. Does everybody have an inner critic? Yeah. Are they noisier on some topics than others? Okay. How many people like presenting? Oh, darn, 4 hands. No. They say that's the biggest fear, like greater fear than dying. It isn't for me, but I still feel nervous. Yeah, I have that adrenaline kind of rushing through me. Why? Because your time is precious, and I want to really honor that, right? Of course, I also want to do a good job, but mostly I want to honor that. And so, what's going on with the outer world and my inner world, and why are those sometimes not talking? How many of you have narrated a reason something's happening, right? You're reading the room or reading a situation and you're internalizing it and you come up with a narrative and all of a sudden you realize that isn't what's going on at all, right? And so confidence becomes that quality within us where we get to trust ourselves a little bit more. So I'm going to briefly touch on that as well. And then the last one is that my hope, above all, is that you leave inspired to step into with this now new way of building and cultivating confidence from the inside out, be able to step into your full purpose, your full power, and your full authenticity. All right, so what are some of the myths or beliefs that you have about confident people? If you would, shower me with a few examples. A few myths or beliefs. The myth is kind of a lie we tell ourselves to kind of keep us safe and a little bit small and maybe even keep us from changing. But a belief is hardwired, right? So what are some of those? Either a myth or a belief that you have about confident people. Confident people are always successful. Thank you. They know it all. They know 100%. They never have any doubt. They're right on. They know it all. What else? You're born with it, right? There's this thing called natural self-esteem. If you study psychology, that is a real thing. But even those people have moments where they definitely don't feel confident. Others, myths or beliefs about confidence. What was that? They can never go wrong or never be wrong. Ooh, confident people are all extroverts. Darn, for 60% of the planet, that would stink. Any others? Big ones. That you're like, either someone told you, a good boss or a really bad boss, or you kind of have formed a belief around yourself.
That they don't face self-doubt.
That they never face self-doubt. Yeah. So thank you. All of those are myths or beliefs that are almost always not true. But let's unpack them a little bit more. The first one, you didn't say this, and people do, right? Confident people are actually arrogant, so I don't want to be confident. Who's been told that? Don't be too confident, you look arrogant. Okay, and that does translate differently for genders as well. That's quite real, right? Or you're being too assertive, or you're too dominant, or my favorite, you're bossy, right? Who's been called bossy? Yeah, who's been called dominant, assertive, aggressive, arrogant? Okay, so those do not have an equal sign next to confident. Those are other qualities that most of those qualities are not necessarily necessary in order to do well in the world at large. Those are more qualities that have become more coping strategies, or maybe parts of our personality that we haven't refined quite yet. We'll leave it there. Okay, second one. Confident people pursue more risk. That's a myth, because sometimes they do, sure, but sometimes they don't. More often than not, confident people know when to say yes and they know when to say no. And that's when they take that risk, they're up for it. That is a difference for sure. Confident people are sure about themselves because they're smarter. I have to be smart to be confident, right? Who's judging smartness? Is it emotional intelligence? right? Is it more IQ? Right? It's neither. It's a quality, it's a way of being, it's a belief we have in ourselves and the world at large and our own capabilities that we can do what it is that we wish to do in this world at large. And it has nothing to do with intelligence. Confident people are always confident, right? It's a stable trait. Not true at all. You can have a very confident person in one setting, or in a relationship, or in a job, and the same person goes to a different job, is in a different relationship with a boss or a peer or someone that is kind of an authority in their life and not show up confident at all. It's actually not always a stable trait, but I will tell you, if I have your attention and you cultivate these 5, what I'm calling precursors to confidence, you will more often than not be able to stabilize that as a trait in yourself. Confident people are never afraid. So earlier I asked you to raise your hand if you said, I'm generally confident. Raise your hand again. Are you also afraid? Sometimes. Yeah. So we do feel fear, right? We're not robots, confident people. We feel fear. Sometimes, though, that fear gives us that extra sort of oomph we need in order to take that next big step. Confident people are never unsure of themselves or situations. Not true at all. Confident people maybe if I ran like a formal study and just take this audience here, and I took the people who said they're confident and not confident, and I asked you how often you put yourself out there, you might say the confident people more often than maybe the less confident people. That's true. But that doesn't mean that you're always sure. It just means you're willing to take the risk and put yourself out there. It's a choice you're making because you have enough confidence in you to know that 1, it's probably going to go quite well, or 2, if it doesn't, you're going to be okay anyway. The recovery of confident people is different than the recovery of people who lack confidence. And the last one, there are many more, but the last one for today, confident people always know what to do and when to do it. Oh my God, who wants to work? I would say then I never want to work with a confident person because I don't want to be in a room that they think their way and them getting it done is always the right way, right? I want to be with someone who's open, who admits they're wrong, who asks for an exchange of ideas and is curious. So I would say that's not the definition of the confident people that I know and that I've come to respect and or that you might be inspired by as well. All right, so these are some of the myths. So let me rephrase the question. How can you more accurately know if a person is confident, right? Either what does it look like or what does it feel like to be with them? Someone who's more truly confident, not arrogant, right? Not a know-it-all, not smarter. Tell me about that person.
For me to be decent and assured.
That they're decent and assured. So they're well-intentioned. That's what I'm hearing as well. Beautiful. Yes?
And their body language is a little bit different. Maybe they make more eye contact, they lean in, maybe they like to get out, their shoulders upright, posture.
Right on. It's a full body experience. Their eyes, their body, they're present, right? They're accessible, they're available, they're kind of even, more open-hearted. Beautiful. A couple more. Yeah.
It's like contagious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just that it's contagious, right? Like a confident person walks in. Think about how many play sports? Can you imagine walking in a team and you're feeling a little bit like, ooh, this team's number 1. So my daughter later tonight is playing volleyball and she's playing the number 1 team in her region. So she's a little like, oh, I don't know. And I'm like, hey babe, just go out there, do your best. That's all you can do, right? Cheer her on. Imagine if the whole team was like that, right? Was my daughter, who's a sophomore, yes, and she made varsity, so she's already putting more pressure on herself. If every one of her teammates was like, oh God, Oak Ridge, this isn't gonna go well, right? But there's a few women on that team that I know are gonna walk out and be like, we got this, right? And that's gonna build up their energy. It's gonna be contagious. I love that. Hand back here. Yes?
They don't judge other people.
They don't judge other people, right? Because they don't need to judge you in order to feel better about themselves. Yeah, absolutely. In fact, truly confident people, I'll just say for myself, when I am at my most confident, I love to be wrong because it means I get to learn something. It means I get to learn something, expand my view.
Is he very comfortable in uncomfortable situations?
Mm-hmm.
Like, questions that if I were asked, I would be super uncomfortable, but they
So it could be a challenging situation. Maybe it was the panel earlier today, or the boss puts them on the spot in a meeting, and they seem okay. Not flustered, they're not shaky voice. Okay, great. So there's both energy, but there's little nonverbal cues that you get. Wonderful. One more. There was a hand up over here.
I feel like confident people, they're attractive somehow, right? They I don't know if it's the way that they move or anything. You just feel drawn to them, like they fill up the whole room where they are talking. So
yeah, I love it. They attract people. They're charming, but not in an arrogant way, right? Because they're available. They're authentic. Who doesn't want to be around more people like that? Yeah, absolutely. There was a couple more hands. Is there anyone that hasn't spoken that would love to get it out there? Okay, last one.
So they have done the groundwork, so they know that they have done their homework for the piece. Now they can know they're confident that
I heard they're very experts in their field. Yeah, so confident people also do the work. They become experts potentially. They can be very knowledgeable. Absolutely right. All right, so let me tell you now some truths about confidence. Number one, energy a person expresses that supports getting what they want and need in life. Sometimes it can just be that charm, right? But they're not afraid to ask for what they want. And they're not afraid to ask it in a way that serves the greater whole. It's not necessarily selfish or agenda-driven, but they do know how to get what they want. And there's an energy around them, an inspiration, and an influence. There's a sense of ease that flows from them and between you. This is why I think it's not fair to talk about confidence without talking about someone being on purpose and being authentic. Empowered, confident people, right, they're empowered in their responses and in their decisions and in their choices. And by the way, that doesn't mean they're right, but they have a position. They take a position and then they listen and they learn and they expand and they refine. Intellectually curious. Confident people want to know more. They ask more questions, right? They dive deeper on topics. They don't stay on the surface. They're not afraid to go deep because they don't have to be right. It's more important to them that they're learning and being engaged and adding to a conversation and contributing in a way that is maybe less heroic, but still substantial. Relaxed in one's vulnerability. Confident people cry. Confident people allow themselves to be touched, right? By something, an event, a person. They're totally open to being inspired. And in that as well, there's a vulnerability about truly confident people. There's a softness and a tenderness as well as a strength and a power. They're fully present. I love what you guys shared, right? Their eyes are with you. Their body is with you. Their conversation is with you. They're not bopping off on tangents all over the place, right? They're like right here, right now. And they take up their own rightful space in the world. They take up their space in the world, though, however, the difference is they don't do that at the expense of somebody else. So you're in a meeting. They're not the one who's always talking. They're the one who is balanced in their contribution, but they're always willing to contribute, either A, because they feel inspired to, or B, maybe there's a request for them to step up. But they take up their space in the room and in the world at large. And they have their own backs. So confident people likely have lots of people around them who have supported them. I've yet to meet a truly confident person that says, yep, did it all by myself. No help needed, right? I got this. That's not confident, per se. More likely than not, a confident person says, why, thank you, yes, I'm super proud of my ability to do that. Or, you know what, who I should really thank? My spouse, or my best boss, or, well, I want to thank you because you inspired me earlier today, right? They're very generous. And they're more interested in learning than doing it right or being right. So if you leave today and you meet a person, your little alert's going to be up and you're going to be like, wow, is this person confident or not, right? Look for these qualities. These are the qualities that we're striving for, not the others. We're not striving for arrogance. We're not striving for being the smartest person in the room. We're not striving for being so wholly independent you don't need anyone. We're striving for this type of person. This is a legacy leader. This is a legacy colleague, a legacy friend, a legacy parent. And that's why I fell in love with this topic. And about 5 years ago, I sort of decided to mine a search, right? The search for confidence. Because people had in my life told me that I was confident. And I was like, okay, I don't know what's going on here. I'm my little inner critic. But anyway, I wonder what it is about me. Because you're right, I can be very confident. But yet I may not always feel it. So I realized as well in my own journey, oh, look at me, I can cultivate confidence over the course of my life. I don't have to have it all for this situation, right? I just have enough to keep living the life and choosing the life that I want to live and being integrous in how I show up in that. All right, so does it come from within? We'll see. Are people born with it, right? Alluding to it being somewhat of a stable personality trait. That's interesting. Or, if you've never felt confidence in your life, can you really develop it? So these are the questions that I was curious about as I went upon my little data mining search, and also kind of reflecting on my own life and my own experiences. And here's what I found. They were a mix of both validation and surprise. Because I grew up in high tech in the 90s, 2000s, mostly 2000s, and biotech. I lived overseas. I worked with Europeans. I worked on teams where I was the only female, potentially the only American. And I had a certain style. For example, I was always told, you're very American. I'm like, I don't think that's a compliment coming from you, but thank you very much. What's that about, right? Maybe they just thought I was overly confident because I was an American, right? We also start to translate this idea of confidence culturally. Gender as well, but definitely also culturally. Here's what I found, though, is more true. Confidence is not something that we wake up to each day. It wasn't for me, it's not for most people. It's really something that we commit to in our daily lives. Because guess what? I like to always believe, no matter how good your life is, that the best could even be yet to come. And I want to be prepared for that. I want to say yes to the things I really want to do. I don't want to be held back because I don't feel confident. I do not want that to be a reason. If I'm going to be held back, I want it to be for some other reason, but not that, because that's within me. That's something I can cultivate if I'm willing to do the work. Back here. The most important finding. Anyone can become truly and authentically confident depending how they choose to live their day-to-day life. So, 5 qualities I mentioned, and I mentioned these are more of ways of being in the world that almost all confident people that I've met, that I've studied, and I'll speak for myself, have cultivated from the inside out. And these are kind of precursors to really that sustainable confidence, that person, that description of that person or persons that I put up on the screen a few slides ago. These are really people who are taking a journey to not simply build confidence, but inspire more purposeful and authentic ways of living and leading that can be expressed in every area of your life. That's what I wish for you. I would love if you left today and said, wow, okay, I'm gonna think about this differently, and you know what, I'm gonna get myself ready. I want that job, and I know that's coming open. That would be amazing. It would be equally amazing to me if you went home and started to show up differently in your community, in your home, in your marriages, in your friendships. You started to show up more on purpose and authentic, because you know who you are, and who you are, what you have, and what you've done is already enough. So the rest is icing on the cake. So let's take that journey. All right, first one, live deeply, and I'm gonna go into these each. Second, value connection, almost above anything else. Third is to welcome growth. It's inevitable. You can fight it, but I promise it's in growth that we really find out who we are. Be intentional, as opposed to just sort of living life haphazardly and hoping for the best. And show up fully. So even in this language, you can see, oh, those kind of sound similar. They do all talk to each other. I wish I could say, just pick one of them. One, welcome growth, great. Enjoy the journey, right? What I found is you kind of gotta be, at any given time, aware of working on taking the journey with all 5. So I will do my best to tease them apart so that I give you some ideas that you can take back with you. All right, so before I do that, let me just say a little bit more about who I am beyond my little profile that she read. I call myself a doing addict. I've spent most of my life being very, very busy, very, very good at getting things done. I actually became someone who overdid, over-engineered, and over-efforted most every single thing in my life. Anyone relate? Takes a lot of energy, a lot of energy. And about 2014, I was on the cusp of a pretty significant burnout. I developed a tremor. I was stuttering. My doctor thought I had multiple sclerosis. Thankfully, I didn't. After an MRI showed that. So I had basically done all this to myself, stressed myself out to the degree that my body was finally making it so clear to me that something needed to shift. And the biggest risk in that, beyond the physical, was that I was starting to show up in ways that weren't really me. I was starting to say yes to things that I didn't want to say yes to. I was starting to mold myself to fit into certain things because work had become such a complete and whole identity. Despite being married, having kids, and I'm a lot of other things to this world than I am just someone who likes her career. And so that is that journey, my own journey, and my own almost breakdown at that point, or my burnout, led me to say, how can I come back, right? How do I want to recover? How do I kind of strip back that identity and step into my full power and authenticity with or without work, with or without a company name behind me, a title, and a certain income? So that is really the heart of what is going to unfold here in the next few minutes we have together. But let me also just say, because the more I say it, the more I'll live it, is that I was complicit in being a leader who portrayed success as constantly overdoing. I've been leading since I was 24 years old, my first job. I've had people underneath me. I have impacted a lot of human lives. A lot of them still in my life. I'm honored to have led them, etc. Some of them I also created doing addicts in. I asked for too much. I asked them to sacrifice things that they shouldn't have sacrificed. And I was complicit because the money was great, right? The accolades were awesome, the trips were beautiful, it was real cool to be noticed, all of those things. Temporary things, not things that sustain confidence, purpose, and authenticity by any stretch. But here's what I started to notice is that before the pain had even dried, on my last success, I was already planning the next one. And so I really was thoughtful in naming this an addiction because my doing life had me, I did not have it, and as a result, I gave up my power and right to kind of choose for myself. And today, I stand on the stage completely committed to refusing to live one more day of my life presenting that as success to myself or anyone that is whose lives that I have a moment or a year or whatever the time is to touch. Was it easy? No, but I'll tell you what, my confidence served me well. My ability to recover, my commitment to knowing who I was beyond all that absolutely served my journey and keeps me on the stage being able to say that with integrity. So, but how did it affect me? Well, I lost confidence that I would someday arrive. One day it would feel like enough. Right? That started to drift away. So I started to show up more scattered than clear, more tired than energized, and more stressed than calm. That is not a confident person. I did not make the description on a few slides ago. I lost touch with my truest sense of purpose, even in my working life. What is all this for? Here we are again. It put my authenticity at risk, which when I do values work, it's my number one. I want to be who I am. I want to know who I am deeply. I want to know who you are, and I want to be in an authentic relationship. And all of that put that at risk. And I lost my balance. So they had my confidence in their hand. I gave it to them. Here, you tell me who I am, right? You give me the big projects and let me affirm myself through that work. Well, what happens when they're not interested in doing that anymore? Or what happens when I say no? Or what happens when I fail, which I'm bound to? I was doing big things. So I gave them all that power. It's not their fault, by the way. Kind of knew I was doing it. But nevertheless, that was a really big risk I was taking. And so I gave up my power to choose for myself. So I'm back in choice. And here's why and how. Here's how I stay there. Okay, so the first one, let's dive in. Live deeply. Live deeply. Really, confidence comes from knowing that we are living the life that we are meant to live and are willing to live it deeply, authentically, and wholeheartedly. It's number one for a reason. You either are here or you're not. You're either skimming on the surface or you're living life to its fullest. And it really comes from this ability to live into this present moment. It's very hard to live deeply in the future. And it's really painful to live deeply in the past because you kind of can't change it. You can learn from it, but you can't necessarily change it. So living deeply is about being fully in the moment. So if you're sitting there saying, oh, I've been working on and meditating for years, I'm trying to be more present, I'm trying to be more conscious, or maybe people tell you you're not a good listener, it's an indicator you're not present, or they're saying you're too scattered, or they're speaking to you and you're not allowing yourself to be inspired, right? You're not really hearing it. You're not allowing yourself to shift and change. These could all be signs that presence may be something to work on, but certainly that could be a blocker to you to living deeply. Because too often we're either behind or in front of the present moment, and yet the present moment has everything in it that we need to learn. Yes, we should reflect and kind of look back. But that territory is not as rich as this territory, and that territory won't help you change what's coming next. But being fully present in this moment absolutely can and will. And in that moment, we are, when we're present, right? When we're not so worried about thinking about what happened or what is going to happen, when we're rehashing conversations, when we're stepping out of presence with our moment right here, right? We are consistently willing to look deeper, think deeper, learn deeper, and live deeper into the life that's right in front of us. We get the point of it. We get the point of it. Present people get it. Unconscious people are missing a lot. And yet we have to cultivate that really intentionally. So here's some questions you could ask yourself. What kind of life are you striving to live? Where are you willing to live and look deeper, and where are you not? And can you stay present long enough to harvest what's right in front of you? Folks who are taking a picture. All right, number 2, value connection. In fact, show up to connect and engage rather than to play a role or to please. Value connection over being right or being smart. Value the person over the problem. We've all heard that one. How do you separate the two? Authentically, genuinely. You value connection. You don't have to like everybody to value connection, by the way. But if you're leading people, stewarding people, if you're influencing people, you have to learn to connect with people, even if they're not your best friend who you invite, want to have a drink with later. That's not what that's about. It's value and connection, right? So that, again, the presence helps, but it's really getting out of your head around the role or being right or being smart, which keep you from really being truly confident. Worry less about what people think about you and more about how people feel when they're with you. Thank you, Maya Angelou, one of my favorite quotes. People will forget what you did, forget what you said, but they will not forget how they felt when they were with you. Lean into vulnerability whenever it asks you to. You know those moments when you get a little bit, give me a moment, or just move on, right? You're feeling teary. Don't do that. Be like, wow, that's impacting me in this moment. Give me a second. I want to stay with this a bit. I want to find out what this is about. Right? That would be an example of modeling vulnerability and then making space for others to do the same. Why? Because confidence grows with each intimate connection you make. Confident people are connected. Because each time they deeply connect, they learn something, right? And they learn to trust the world at large. They learn to trust themselves in relationship. And they learn that the universe is out for their best interest. So some questions you could ask. What roles do you play to please others? Nothing will take you out of connection quicker than showing up in the way that I think you should. Don't do that. I don't really want you to do that anyway. Maybe some people do, but most do not. And I definitely don't want that for you. How important is it for you to be affirmed by others? Do you spend a lot of time looking and seeking that from the outside? And what do you value more than connection, right? What's competing for your most precious offering, which is you being with me right now? All right, number 3, welcome growth. Embrace life as a journey towards self-actualization. Self-actualization is not just for the monks. We all are on a journey to self-actualize, to become our best person while we still have breath in us. Mindsets, feelings, instincts organically shift, right? They expand, they come in, they come out. Allow that to happen. Allow this natural process to thrive in and around you. Stop rushing, grasping, pushing, striving. The more we learn, the more we care. The more we care, the more we show up in the ways that we intend. This is why growth is so important. We always reserve the right to get smarter. We always reserve the right to change our mind. And we always reserve the right to do better next time. But we cannot do any of that without welcoming growth. Sometimes we pursue it, but sometimes it finds us. And both are a yes. Because the minute we stop growing, we stop learning. And the minute we stop learning, we lose confidence. Yeah? The minute we stop learning, or we just get bored and take off and go do something else, that happens too. But learning helps build our confidence. It reminds us that we are not done yet. All right, so some questions. Do you believe in the process of transformation? Do you believe people can truly change? I have one of my best friends that's like, well, people don't really change. I'm like, well, I'd definitely be out of a job. People didn't change, but okay. What parts of your life do you welcome? What do you resist? How come? And how are you at letting your mindsets, behaviors, and feelings evolve and adapt as opposed to staying fixed? This morning there was a topic on fixed mindset. We want a growth mindset here as well. All right, number 4, be intentional. Embrace life with an open heart, supported by clear intentions, care, and courage. Right? This leads to alignment. If you just show up and you're just unconscious and habitual, and you know you're going to get triggered because you usually do, and you're just sort of living there, you've not only are you not being intentional, but you've given completely away your power. I don't want to connect with you. People are going to move away from you. People are going to tell you what you want to hear, not what you need to know. To be intentional requires us to be present, so that's definitely a theme across. And it also requires us to show up in ways that are aligned. Say what you mean and mean what you say. EWiT, my best boss, do what you say you will do, right? There's a piece of integrity inherent in confident people. And they're also willing to say, I cannot do that, or I'm sorry, great idea, not for me, right? Because they're in choice, and we learn to respect that, because that's a very validated boundary that they've set. Remember that we teach people how to treat us as well. Okay, so if indeed you're kind of at a place you're wondering why you're not getting the respect that you want, or you're not getting those projects thrown at you, or you're becoming just a pair of hands, or whatever it is that's sort of breaking your confidence in this moment, reorient yourself and decide how you want to be treated and show up that way. Show up that way, steadfast, and yet still open-hearted. We exude confidence when we show up aligned. Confident people show up aligned and they treat themselves the way that they want to be treated. So here are some questions. Do you value and practice courage? What does it look like for you? How easy is it for you to prioritize yourself? Do you know your truth? And what do you teach people about how to treat you or work with you? Earlier someone said, do a little survey. So this could be like a survey question you ask people you trust. All right, and number 5, show up fully. Be brave enough to do the deepest work required to live a life of your choosing. It may not be easy at times, it probably isn't. It is the road less traveled. The one who's living a big life and leaning into things, because even if they don't do it, they're not broken by that. They're more broken by not taking that risk, by having regret around things that they wanted to do but said no to. Expect detours, mistakes, misunderstandings, right? This is often the point, right? You don't show up and do big things to do it perfectly. That is very, very seldom the goal. And the universe has your back. The universe has your back. When you get clear, when you're more intentional, right? You're living deeply, you're valuing connection, you're welcoming growth, the universe will show up for you, right? And so in that, though, it may not be in your timing. So we got to get a little bit better at welcoming the pauses and the in-betweens, embracing a period of rest, so that that next picture can be clearer and more achievable. Because confident people value quality over quantity, they worry less, and they live more. And one of the main ways that we can do that is if we're showing up fully and knowing that the universe has our back, and that no matter what the outcome, we are absolutely going to be okay. A few reflection questions for this one is, are you brave? You know, do you go the distance when needed, or do you stop kind of at the 90-yard line? Do you know when you should keep striving or pushing and when you should walk away? Right? Surrender. Some of you might have just put a pit in your stomach when I say that. Surrendering is a strength. Surrendering is a strength. It means you're paying attention to the universe. And not, the universe doesn't always want things when we want them. And sometimes the other dream is even better if we're willing to let go of some. So this isn't about confident people just striving until they get what they want. I do not want you to leave with that message. And do you accept the timing of the universe? Are you in contact with the universe, the energy around you, the people, the broader picture of life? So just take a moment and say, you know, which of these precursors has my attention most and why? Give yourself a place to start. Give yourself, is it live deeply? Is it value connection? Is it welcome growth? Is it being intentional, or is it showing up fully? Right? Which one of those? And just make a little mark. Be like, I'm gonna pay more attention to that. Holding the others, right? Still in your review mirror. Letting them know that you'll get to them, but you're not gonna try to attack them all at once. So in summary, truly confident people are authentic in how they pursue and live their purpose. You get them, they get you, they get the point. They know that authenticity, though, is not just about knowing who they are. Confident people are totally aware and understand how their actions reflect to others who they are more vividly than anything else. It isn't what you do or achieve, it's how you show up in that. It's how you welcome the pauses and in-betweens. It's how you welcome the successes and failures. It's how you give credit where credit is due. There's so much in here about how you show up in your daily life. And confident people know that. Every time they take on something or do something that doesn't fit with who they are, they become less confident in themselves. So we have to stop doing that. You've got to know who you are, why you're here, what you're about, what really matters, and let the rest fall away. Gift it to somebody else. It's not your journey. Confident people know that. Deep in their souls, they do not try to be everything for everyone at every moment. And they know confidence is not static. It lives within them, and like life is always evolving. And that tomorrow they may wake up and need to step back and rebuild that confidence again in order to take that next step. And that doesn't worry them at all. And I hope it doesn't worry you. Above all, confident people are present and do the work life asks of them. The good times and the bad times. They are not a product of circumstance. They know who they are. They know why they're here, and they're going after to live the life that is the most on purpose, authentic, and enjoyable for them. And that is my wish for you. Thank you very much.